Okay, if I could have your attention, we're going to begin. Alex, if you would please take roll.
Brian Henry,
Here.
Walker Henson,
Here.
Jacob Crumweed, Marvin Cusick,
Here.
Eddie Mack,
Here.
Scott Orr,
Here.
Cole Ring,
Here.
Don Roberts,
Here.
David Trojan, Greg Hobb,
Here.
and Clarence Malley.
Here. Thank you. We have a quorum, so I hereby call the February meeting of the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission to order. First item on the agenda is to approve the minutes. Have you all had a chance to take a look at the minutes?
Move to approve.
Second. I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from last month. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And that motion carries. The next item on the agenda, I've been asked to move paragraph 4 to what we're going to do right now, which is a couple of lot splits and get them out of the way. So the first item on the agenda for item 4.1 is to consider approval of a lot split for J. Jesus Franco Regoza. I hope I got that name right. Which is in the northwest quarter of the northeast quarter of the northeast quarter, section 15, township 22 north, range 6, west of the Indian Meridian, located at 3615 East Market Avenue, located in the southwest corner of East Market Avenue and 42nd Street. Alex.
Thank you, Commission Chair. The item before you is a lot split request, which is a request by Mr. Regosa to subdivide a lot that's just east of town within the city, just south of Highway 412. It is located at the southwest corner of East Market and 42nd Street. The Enid Municipal Code does allow for the subdivision of property, so long as the property is not split into more than 2 lots and that the new lot split is less than 10 acres. In this case, as shown on the location map that will be coming up shortly, the lot is just a little bit under 10 acres at 9.9 acres. There it is, thank you. As I said, southwest corner. The lot is currently undeveloped. It has a little over 660 feet of frontage along Market Street, and it also is served by private water and sewer. There's a copy of the plat that has been submitted as part of this application. At this point in time, the staff is requesting that you consider approval of the lot split and move forward. Thank you.
Commissioners, any questions? Motion?
Motion to approve. Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the lot split. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And that lot split carries. The next one is 4.2, which is consider approval of a lot split for Brad Brainerd, which is in the survey of a tract in the northeast quarter of section 28, township 23 north, range 7 west of the Indian Meridian, known as 6405 West Phillips Avenue. Alex?
Thank you, Commission Chair. This lot split, application 4.2, is a request by Mr. Brainerd to subdivide a property that is currently about 140 acre site into a lot that's approximately 0.53 acres. The property is located at 6405 West Phillips. It is zoned agriculture. This lot split is located just northwest of the city, just outside the city limits, but of course within the MAPC boundary. Mr. Brainerd is proposing to subdivide the site into a 0.53 acre parcel. The site, as I said, has direct frontage on West Phillips Avenue and is currently developed with, per the county assessor, a single-family home of approximately 1,000 square feet with accessory buildings. This site is also served by private water and sewer. I understand that Mr. Brainerd is here if you have any questions of him. Otherwise, staff recommends you approve the lot split.
Make a motion to approve. Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve that lot split. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And that's unanimous. Okay, now we're going to go back to paragraph 3, use by review. Item 1, I've been told, has been removed by the request of the requester, so that will be taken off of the list. We will go to item 2, which is to hold a public hearing and consider approval of a use by review from Next Era Energy Resources for the Skeleton Creek Solar Project for the installation and use as a solar and battery storage facility. Alex?
Thank you, Commission Chair and Commissioners. The item before you is a petition concerning the installation of a solar and battery facility to be located on an approximately 5,200 acre project area site located just southeast of the city of Enid. The project site is located partially within the MAPC boundary and also within Garfield County. The applicant previously met with Vance Air Force Base in 2020, submitted a glint and glare study, and reviewed the details of the project with the base. Given the subsequent passage of time, the applicant reached out to the Air Force Base again, and the Air Force Base, as we understand it, has no objections to the request, provided that none of the project details have changed, that they remain constant, considering what they were given in 2020. Also, the applicant has received no objections from Enid Woodring Regional Airport based on the submitted materials. Now pull up a location map so you can get a sense of the location of this site. And we're going to orient the map up would be north. So as you can see, as indicated on this map, the project area site is located in blue. The area in red is the MAPC boundary. The rest of this is in Garfield County. I understand from the applicant that the utility interconnect with OG&E would be at this location. This concludes staff's presentation. The applicant is here to address any questions should you have them. The staff is requesting that you consider this use by review.
It's a hearing, right?
Yes. And it is a public hearing. Thank you.
I understand, sir. I have a number of questions to start with. There are a number of requirements that are listed here. Is there a mission compatibility letter from Department of Defense citing clearinghouse?
To my knowledge, I don't have a current one, but as I understand it via email correspondence, the representatives from Vance were connected with the applicant. And again, they stated no further objections to the project so long as the details remain the same. This dialogue, I believe, started in 2020. So all I have is that correspondence from Vance. And we do have correspondence from our regional airport.
I'll just add in, I did send an email out to Terry and Ashley, who do all of the PR for Vance Air Force Base, and they did some double checking and sent me back a reply that said, yes, I double checked with the boss, she's referring to the colonel, and said, as long as nothing changed in their glint glare study, that Vance Air Force Base was happy to move forward with the project.
Okay. There are a number of requirements. That was the first one. I assume that Vance is going to look at all of these. The next one says, for obstacles less than 200 feet above ground, we need a statement from the FAA that no review is required, or a statement showing determination of no hazard to air navigation. Again,
That's for obstacles 200 feet or more.
well, this is 200 feet, or let's say for obstacles less than 200 feet,
Okay.
which this would be less than 200 feet, that a statement showing determination of no hazard to air navigation. And I'm just trying to make sure we dot all the i's and cross all the t's. And I'm wondering if all of this has been covered. Do you know?
I'm not in possession of a
Okay.
letter from FAA.
Yeah, Commission Chair, nor am I. The applicant, I'm sure, can address that
Okay.
as well, but appreciate you pointing it out.
And then we have a number of Enid requirements. Now, we've got the statement from the the Woodring Regional Airport Director stating approval I assume?
That's correct. No objections to the application. Again, so long as it's consistent with what, has been reviewed and what's presented.
And that last one, who provides that section 5 that says the location and height of the facility is consistent with the Vance Air Force Base vertical obstruction military compatibility area as depicted in figure 31 of the Vance AFB J-Luce 2018 and the Woodring Regional Airport vertical obstruction compatibility area as depicted in figure 33 of the Vance AFB J-Luce 2018. Again, I just want to make sure we have all of these areas covered, and I don't know if we've got anybody that can speak for all of these things that are required here. Is that a question that we need to address? You see what I'm saying?
I have a couple more questions.
That's valid.
So, is there somebody not here representing them?
No, the applicant is here and
Okay.
able to address any questions that you may have.
If we could have the applicant, if you would please go to the podium and introduce yourself.
Afternoon, guys. My name is Christopher Banks, Nextera Energy. I am the project manager for the project.
Okay, like I say, I'm concerned about all of the requirements that are listed in this section, and there are 5 specific requirements. Do we have, the first 3 show that there are letters that need to be presented. Have all of those letters, the mission compatibility letter from the Department of, I'm having trouble talking today, the Department of Defense Siting Clearinghouse. Do you,
So the official letters, sir, we will not get those until we file the exact position of our transmission lines. So, no, we do not have those yet.
now the next one is a statement from the FAA that no review is required, or a statement showing determination of no hazard to air navigation.
So, sir, that one's a little bit intertwined with number 1. So when we go to file those criteria, so the FAA won't give us a notice saying like, hey, there's no obstruction here. They won't say something like that. They will tell us to use their tool on their website. And from our Capital Airspace Group, the consulting firm that we use to work with the DoD and the FAA on this process, essentially they will run the tool and it will say that we do need these notices. So those notices will tie into number 1.
Okay. And then lastly, the letter from the wing commander. Now, I understand there was a verbal, but do we have a letter?
We have email approval from, not the wing commander, sir. It's essentially, I went down the chain of command first. So I didn't want to approach the wing commander without dealing with his constituents first.
Okay. And the next 2 items are for the, one's from the Regional Airport Director at Woodring. How about, we have anything from him?
Yes, sir, we have that.
Okay. Now, the last one was a little complicated in the joint land use plan, which we did like 4 or 5 years ago, if I remember right. I think most of this was vertical obstruction compatibility. I don't see an issue with that, but the one thing that I think most of you are thinking about is the glare off of these things. And the one concern that I've got is pilots flying over these things to, I don't want to blind the pilot, and from what I understand, this thing's going to be quite large.
Yes, sir. So right now what we're submitting is that 5,000 square feet. That's not going to be the entire size of the project. So I just want to preface that. That's not going to be like the entire area is going to be covered with panels. That is just currently our outline of we will not go outside of that perimeter. And that there's no plans for that to change. So Within that boundary, we tend to utilize approximately about 2,600 square feet. We put a larger footprint so that we're not coming back to anybody later and saying, hey, we're actually moving stuff. So this is the maximum area that we will be using for the project. And we did perform a glint and glare study, like Mr. Hamilton noted a little bit earlier in 2020, with the results saying that the panel should not impact any pilot's ability to land on approach or blind.
I need to take care of a housekeeping issue real quick. On our agenda, it states that it's 5,277 acres. I'm assuming that is square footage.
Yes, sorry, acres.
So let this make the notes reflect that it's a simple typo and
Are we
that's,
talking acres or square foot?
Acres.
Acres. So it's kind of the other way.
Sorry, I misspoke. I apologize.
yeah. 5,277 square feet is a big difference over 5,000 plus acres. So
I
just
apologize.
let the record reflect that change will be made to square feet.
Well, no, he says it's acres.
No, it's acres, sir. It's acres. Yes,
Okay.
acres. Yes.
So you misspoke.
I
Okay,
misspoke.
no problem.
Yes.
43,560 square feet in an acre.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Commissioner, do you have any other questions for Mr. Banks?
Yes.
Go ahead.
How large is each panel?
How large is each panel?
Yes.
10 feet.
Okay. How far apart do you space them?
We stack them pretty close together.
Okay. If you do that, so you have a little more erosion runoff from rainfall. So you get letters from the county commissioners to control the water?
From a stormwater permit, is that what
Yes.
you're? Yes, sir. That's one of our requirements, is to get a stormwater permit.
I would like to see this at some point. How far are you gonna run your chain link fences? From half a mile, quarter mile to fence this off? Are you gonna close any roads?
I do not believe we're closing any roads, sir, but we will enclose the boundary of the solar panel arrays. We will enclose them.
Okay. Have you got a letter from the Department of Wildlife?
Department of what, sorry?
Wildlife?
For what?
If you're gonna change the direction of where the deer run,
Okay.
and this light reflection, is it gonna change the bird pattern? Have you done any environmental studies on that?
Yes, sir, we have environmental studies completed. Yes, we actually, we're going through a NEPA process with this project, so we have extensive environmental studies.
So do you know how much heat this produces?
No, I do not at this time.
Okay. I think those are some questions I'd like to have answered.
Could you repeat that one question on the fence distance one? So I can get that one? You said a quarter mile or half mile? What
Yeah,
was
your chain link fence, you're gonna run chain link fences around these properties, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so the wildlife are used to running, in certain areas, and if you go to fencing off mile after mile, it's gonna direct them then to take the county roads, which is gonna increase traffic accidents.
So, just so I can make sure that I'm getting you the right answer, are you talking about like the space between the fencings, the distance from the fencing to the panels?
Now, so if you have a half a mile of fence, you're gonna put a half a mile of fence, you've got a half a mile of panels. And you go to the county line of each road, and so if the deer can't cross like where they used to cross, they're gonna take the county road to move.
Okay, I understand your question
So
now.
you might wanna consider putting paths. So that's why I wanted to see if anything with the Department of Wildlife yet.
I can get back to you on that one and review the reports that we got from our environmental studies on that.
Okay.
I know as county commissioner, we have to have an environmental study done on each bridge we put in, as far as bald eagles, protected owls and all of this stuff. You guys have done that in this area then?
Yes, sir.
Documentation of that?
Yes, sir.
Am I under the impression that you do not yet, your company does not yet know where the transmission lines are going to be? I see on the application, there's no need for utilities. I'm assuming at some point, some transmission lines or some type of connection to the electrical grid is going to be necessary. Do you have a plan for that?
So to answer your question, that's why we don't have the notices at this time, because we need to finalize our layout, because the filings have to be within 5 feet of the transmission, like actually installations. So they have to be very precise. So we want to make sure that the design is finalized before we submit those to
Do you have a preliminary?
Yes, we have a preliminary layout.
But
The
you-
transmission line is about, it's gonna be tentatively about a mile long.
Chris, you might tell them the potential height of your transmission line. That might be a question that they would be interested in.
Yeah, so I believe the height of the transmission lines are gonna be 165 to 200 feet.
And have you approached Vance Air Force Base? Have you approached Woodring Regional in regard to those heights?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any written feedback from them regarding that?
Not specifically to attest to the transmission height, no, sir.
What kind of monetary investment, if this is built the way you envision it to be built, what kind of monetary investment or capital investment is headed to that particular area?
Approximately right now, 600 million.
Say that again?
600 million.
Is that the initial investment?
That's the total overnight investment of the expected lifespan of the project, what we estimate to be 35 years, 30 to 35 years.
So you have a yearly cost also or not?
There will be O&M costs for that project, but I do not have that number offhand.
Okay.
Does the entire project fall within Pioneer School District, or do you know?
I'm not 100% certain on that.
That's fair.
Wish that picture was a little clearer. You guys be able to see that?
I unfortunately able to. I can kind of make
Can you zoom in on that a little bit, please? Blue area.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna do that. Okay.
We should.
Huh? Well, let me,
he's gonna be zooming on this.
just a second. Well, I've got it there, but.
Right.
Oh, there we go. That helped.
That's a little better.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Okay. Now, it's that blue grid area that
Yes, sir.
I'm looking at right in the middle of the screen. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So we've got Wood Road, what's the north boundary there? Is that Flynn? Fox, thank you. Fox, Flynn, Skeleton. Okay. Oh, no, Flynn's on the south, my bad.
Okay, and what's our two east and west boundaries? It's, is it 30th and 54th?
Looks like we're back to 16th, west of 16th there, a little bit. 16th, 30th, 42nd, 4th, and then it jogs over a little bit, if it's the blue box we're looking
Is that 100%
Okay.
with Enid city limits?
at. Part of it is and part of it isn't, I think.
Okay, if you guys don't have any other questions for Mr. Banks, I'm gonna open it up to,
I've got one more.
Okay, go ahead.
On the battery storage facility, what kind of capacity is that gonna have? Are these batteries safe? What if they start leaking? Are you guys have an environmental study done on the batteries in case they start leaking? How's that gonna be contained?
So the way those are designed, the batteries are inside a kind of looks like a shipping container. So if there's any fire or leakage in there, there's an essentially like a foam / water system that will just flood the tank and not leak. So that's essentially what happens. If it does leak, if it would be to leak from any kind of brittle fracturing of that sort, it would be leaking in the container. It would be contained in the container.
Thank you.
Kind of piggybacking on what he just asked, have you had, has the city of Enid had anybody look at this as far as like fire or electric, anything like that? Because a lot of states have gone away from allowing battery storage until I think the 2024 code cycle is going to allow for it again, but with a thorough review from NFPA 70. And so I don't know if maybe one of you guys can answer that.
Scott can speak to the specific code cycle, but there will be a time when we do review the plans for
Okay.
conformance, since part of it obviously is within the MAPC jurisdiction. So we will, I think it's premature at this point, but there will be some sort of plan review through code as well as engineering.
Well, and part two to what I was asking is this 100% within Enid city limits? So then you would probably need something from the state fire marshal allowing for this to go as well, correct? Okay.
Yes.
That's all I have.
If there's no more questions for Mr. Banks, I'll ask you to sit down and we'll have some of the people that are signed up to speak for this. Mr. Ken Gertie, if you would, guys, try to limit your statements to, let's make it 3 minutes, if you can.
Okay, sir. Mr. Chairman, Board, appreciate the opportunity to come before you today and discuss this. I apologize for my voice right now. The weather is just killing me. So, I come to you as the president of the EAA chapter of Pilots, Experimental Aircraft Association. We'd like to discuss a little bit about the location and the final approach into Woodring and the glint and glare study that everybody has talked about. There is a new final report out from the FAA on glint and glare study that was signed in May of 2021. Sounds like the report they have now is from 2020. If you look at the corner of 66th and Wood Road is the final approach fix Garfy for the ILS localizer into Woodring. So depending on the time of day and the location of the pilot flying into that final approach, is there going to be a glint and glare problem for him flying in there? Now, it is a little bit to the west, so the altitude probably shouldn't be a problem, but that still concerns me that there is a glint and glare problem there for just depending on the time of day that you're coming in. Advance uses that on a regular basis in T6s because they only have an ILS localizer approach on 3-5 center. And that is to the west, and it usually comes out about to where the H is on Hayward is where they're, well, maybe a little farther south that's where their final approach fix is for the ILS localizer into 3-5 center. So it may not affect the Vance as much. I understand we already have agreement from Keston, the airport director, and Vance that it's okay. I have a lot of concerns that it's not. I know flying over by Covington, the farm that's over there, some of those panels don't move very good. And if you catch it just right on a good day, you'll catch a glint every time coming across that area coming towards Woodring. So I'd like there to be more of a look at that, maybe a consideration of what that's going to do for Vance using that as a training point. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gertie. Gary, I'm trying to, pardon me for having a little bit of trouble reading this. Is that Gary Befford?
No, it's my bad handwriting, sir. It's Greg Workville.
Okay, I'm sorry, Greg.
Still bad after all these years. Mr. Chairman of the Board, I don't know if this is the right way. I doesn't know the forum is, I have more questions than I have a statement, but I can put them in a statement form. I don't know how you would
Fine.
want to do that.
Go ahead.
So one of mine would be what type of panels, what's the material going to be used? Because that, you guys were talking about environmental, that makes a difference from what the panels are. The materials, especially in our weather, if they hit the ground, they can contaminate the water. And if it's a certain type, it's probably not the best for the environment. One of the questions that just somebody asked me was the new way that they're doing, especially OG&E, is are there going to be drones that are going to monitor these? That's a nuisance. Is there going to be some type of fund, or is the company stable enough that if something happens, the cleanup will be taken care of? Is there going to be any storage or substations near the houses or the housing additions? Because there's 2 housing additions in this, plus numerous houses. And if it is, how close are they going to be? If anybody's ever been around those, they know the noise generated is loud and irritating. And what are the health risks? How close will the panels be to the houses or housing additions when installed? Nobody seems to, the company doesn't seem to have a plan, and I've asked, and nobody seems to have where they're going to be. He just said that there's not a final plan. If the panels are movable, the angle of the panels will reflect into the houses. It's not just a pilot thing. With as many houses as we have around, have they done anything on a study about the houses? My housing addition, I'm on the wrong side of the road, or I'm on the right side of the road. The other houses, my neighbors, literally it butts up against their yard. Are there going to be panels there? Are they going to, when they angle at a certain time of day, are they going to reflect into their house? If the panels, if they end up reflecting at the wrong angles, what are the options for the citizens? Is there any recourse for us? Or if they say they break, how would we take care of that? And why was this location chosen? If anybody's been out there that lives out there, which I think is everybody that's here, sir, it's farmland and ranch land. If you were going to use, I understand their plan and their power lines, but if you're going to use the land, why not use the Texas or Oklahoma Panhandle, Arizona, New Mexico, where there's nothing and nobody around? To choose this location seems odd. And does the area benefit from this in any way? My understanding, and I'm probably wrong, the windmills, the electricity doesn't go here, or maybe part of it does. Is this going to be the same way for the solar farm? Do we benefit anyway from that? That's all I have, sir.
Good questions. Thank you, sir. Mr. Stacy Bean?
I mostly have a concern about our property values. There's probably 22 acres in Pioneer Estates where we live, and there's approximately 14 homes in that area. And according to what I've looked up, the property values will at least go down by 7%. If this, it's up to you guys, whether this goes through or not. The next concern I have is wildlife. Like he said, they're gonna build a fence. Where will the wildlife go? Do they jump the fences? There's a herd of deer that lives there right now. There's probably a herd of deer that lives in, Marvin's my neighbor, but there's probably a herd of deer that live down there by you guys. And where are these animals gonna go? And the birds and hawks and owls and eagles? But that's one of my concerns. And then the Department of Wildlife also, and the conversation part. And their habitat will be reduced also with these 5,000 or 5,000 acres, 55,000.
5,200.
5,500 acres, 5,000 acres, which is quite a bit. But that's my concerns is, is there a way to eliminate certain areas of this solar farm? Can they extract or remove certain areas because of where we live? Like I say, there's 14 homes there, and gonna drop our value. My neighbor lives where it's gonna back right up to it. He's gonna be looking at this solar farm every day. When I back out of my driveway, I'll be looking at it every day. And the same thing, maybe, I don't know if it causes more heat, this is just another thing, because of the sun beaming down on the solar panels, it absorbs all the sunlight and the rays. but will it make that area hotter also? You know, will it raise the temperature of that quarter section or whatever it is? But that's just some of my thoughts. Thank you guys for your time, but that's just my concern.
Thank you, Mr. B. Leah Smith.
Hi, thank you for letting me speak. My family farms about 1,200 acres within this area that you have marked off here. If we lose 1,200 acres, that's it for us pretty much as far as farming goes. Something we'd hope to pass on to future generations. We fifth generation farmers. This is very good soil. I'd say some of the best in Garfield County. We get 60 to 75 bushel on unirrigated land, average 50. I just think it's a huge ecological disaster to destroy land like that. I've done a little research. I'm told that it raises the temperature around them by 15 degrees. I don't know how that's just that alone for the wildlife, anything trying to grow around it. They wanted us to sign a contract for them, and I asked them questions. Wanted to know exactly where the panels were going to be because there's at least 3 houses on our property. And I wanted to make sure that these things would not be close to those houses. They told me that they had a plan. When I asked them to give it to me, they said they'd get back with me. They didn't, and then they came back and said that they weren't interested in my land, which was fine because I wasn't going to lease to them anyway. We probably make about $5,000 a year off hunting leases. Lots and lots of wildlife. Bobcat, mountain lion, deer, you name it, is out there. It's thick. You go out there, you're going to see it. I don't know where those animals are going to go. That's more lost income on our part. Some of this property up here, they're showing to be in their area, is not leased to them. Are they going to try to get it by eminent domain? If they can't get it, because it's right in the middle. Just some other questions for you guys.
Ma'am, where is your farm located again?
The one that I own is at 30th, well, not 30th and Wheat Ridge, Wheat Capital. The ones that I farm are at 42nd and Longhorn, all the way to 52nd, 54th and Longhorn, on both sides of the road.
So are you stating that the farms you're speaking of are inside the boundary of the blue box?
One that we own is, and the other ones I lease, but 1,200 acres total.
Okay. And so what's on this map is showing property you own,
Yeah, and my parents own, they did not lease.
but you
and
have not leased to the
That's
applicant?
correct. That's correct. There's at least, what, 480 plus another 120? And then eaves that we know of, yeah. So what did you say, 620?
Okay.
Right out of the middle of it.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
See, that was Leah Smith. Shelley West. Shelley or Shirley West?
Most of the others have said what I would like to say. I'd like to add a few things. It runs at the very back. I'm in the same area as Stacy, and it runs right at my back fence. My husband and I bought 2 acres in this wheat field over 40 years ago, and we've kept it, and people have moved out there because it's quiet and it's all of this. And now you're telling me my property values are going to go down and all this stuff. But there's one point I would like them to bring up that I saw on the computer, that with all of the discussion that's gone on and all of the ifs and ands and buts, they have the wind in Canadian County, and to my knowledge, Mike Cooper has gotten a cease and desist against them for violations. So I don't know if that's been cleared up, but it's still on the computer. And after all this discussion, I'm wondering how much we should really trust this company. I mean, I've dealt with leases and buys and all this from all over, and somebody that doesn't know the area doesn't give a care about anything, so I just really have my doubts on this one. So that's just my point.
Thank you. Karen Jones?
Thank you very much. I just came as a landowner and just want to briefly say thank you for the work you guys do and the questions that you ask tonight, because I think there's good ones, there's more questions to be asked too. But I guess my reason for taking time to come tonight was just to make sure that the rights of the landowners involved are also protected. We haven't sold development rights. That's not something Garfield County offers. And so I think, you know, as long as we're within the guidelines of not violating any of these things you all have talked about, I just want to encourage you to realize that economic development's important and that those property rights are important as well. So thank you for that.
Thank you. And last is James Whitty.
Well, I live out there in that Pioneer Edition, and it's sure enough gonna be right on my back door. And we get the sun coming up right at our back, and of course we get it setting going. And I can tell you, I've seen the panels in Covington, and I believe there's gonna be some glare coming through. Also, Mr. Mack, I can tell you the wildlife in that, if you fence in, even if it's in sections, if you fence that in out there, that wildlife is gonna redirect. He's exactly right on that. And we're gonna be dodging everything down those county roads, everything. The other impact I feel like is a big deal is our property values out there. I think that's huge. My wife is in the real estate, so I'm gonna have, if you guys don't mind, I'd like to defer the rest of my time to her. She's got some questions about some insurance and some other. Is that fine? You said 3 minutes. And
Well, I did, but, okay, I'll bend it a little bit. You've used up about half your time, so if you can talk quick.
That'd be fine.
Yeah, I just had, I had to mention that I'm in the insurance industry. We deal in ag. We've seen several cases of erosion. I work for Triangle here locally. Erosion is a big deal when it comes to solar panels, and you've got a lot of industries that are insurance companies that are pulling out of doing anything with solar panels because they're not sure. I think we're moving too fast, and I think that, yes, doing what you want with your property is fine, but when you do it and it intrudes upon the rights of others, there's a problem. Yes, we want to move forward here in Enid. We want to be better. But we also want to keep the sanctity of 5 generations of farmers.
Thank you. That concludes all the people that have signed up to speak for this. Commissioners, we have a decision to make. If there are no more questions.
I just have one more question.
Go ahead, Ed.
For Chris, have you guys overlaid a flood zone pattern map over this?
Sorry, yes, sir. Yes, sir, we have. So that's one of our first steps for doing what we call a fatal flaw analysis. So we don't want to build a solar farm where it's potentially going to flood. So we do that.
Well, some of these farms, it looked like to me, were in the flood zone.
Yes, sir. And so again, just to address, I guess, some of the points. So this is the total boundary, but yes, there are areas in here that we do not have lease that we will not build on. So if we do not have a current land lease with that particular landowner, we will not build on their farm or their land. And then part of our setback processes is we do set back a minimum of 250 feet from any structure, residence.
So,
200,
Any structure or residence, we set back 250 feet.
Do you have a site plan reflecting something like that?
So we have a preliminary site plan or preliminary design, but it's not finalized. So I don't want to publish it and say stuff is going to go in this land and then 3-6 months it changes.
So before you leave the podium, I have a question for you. A lot has been stated in regard to the approvals that have been given. If the scope of the project has not changed since the 2020 date, I'm going to ask you directly, do you have a leasehold interest in every part of the property that is within the blue box?
Do we have a leasehold interest within?
Do you have the rights, the leasehold interest? Have you bought land? Do you have the right to do this on everything that's within the blue boxed area?
No, sir.
So then could it be said that perhaps the scope has changed?
Not since the 2020 study, sir. So the land that's been engaged in here, we haven't moved any project boundaries or anything like that.
So you've
sir.
brought a project to us and you don't have permission to be on every piece of property that's within the blue box. Am I correct in saying that?
Not in every piece.
So that does change the scope of the project then?
Correct.
Would it be more beneficial if I provided you outlined areas inside the box that we are not touching?
Sir, the application is for 5,277 acres within the blue box. What we're hearing tonight is your project scope is not 5,277 acres inside the blue box, it's parts. And that's not a complete application. That's a deceptive application, actually.
There's 6,400 minimum within this boundary. If I'm just rough eyeballing it. This is just a perimeter boundary. It was not a cutout of the individuals that were not working with us. So your 5,200 number stands the same. But if I sat here and counted up that acreage, I see one.
But what you've represented tonight is you have everything within the blue box on your application, and that's just not, we're finding out that's not the case.
Too many unanswered questions.
And there's too many unanswered questions.
all right. Do you want to make a motion?
I make a motion to deny.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to deny. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any,
Well, can I make a motion to table this for later or not, or it's denied?
well, it's going to go to the city council, is it not?
Only on appeal, Commission Chair. So
There's so many unanswered questions and inconsistencies and incorrect information, and I think they need to reply.
What I hear you all saying is you do have a lot of unanswered questions. Sounds like you've just denied it. So if they can answer those questions, working with the landowners, the expectation is that they would bring it back in the future to this body? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying as it's presented,
Right.
I must make a motion to deny it.
Right, right.
So if I'm hearing a complete resubmittal is what we're saying.
There's
More accurate information.
There's so much inaccuracy on this that I don't think tabling it and letting them address one or two items is going to fix all the problems on it.
We want to see these letters that they're talking about. And like the other gentleman said, there was a new ruling in 2021. So,
Okay. Right now, I've asked for the motion, and I've got several ayes. Are there any nays?
Yes.
Okay, I have 1 nay and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 ayes to deny. That's what you wanted. Okay, we good with that? So the motion to proceed on this has been denied pending further information.
Just let him come back and.
Okay? All right.
Thank you, guys.
All right. So if I'll give you guys just a little bit of a break. If you want to leave now, we've still got a couple items. If you want to stick here with us, you're fine. I would too.
Well, and I think you could have just asked me to put on another agenda.
We all take a meeting. Okay, yeah, let's get the rest. Let's get the rest of this going. Okay, Alex, I have 2 rezonings. Is that correct?
Yes, Commission Chair, that is correct. and
Okay,
I will be brief.
Okay, my first rezoning is to hold a public meeting and consider approval of a request to rezone the property located at 1528 North Grand Avenue from R7 Residential Multifamily District to C3 General Commercial District, and make a recommendation to the Mayor and Board of Commissioners. Okay, Alex?
Yes, Commission Chair, I'll be brief. The applicant is proposing to rezone, the applicant, Ms. Valeria Lewis, is proposing to rezone a portion of her property that currently the property at this location is literally bifurcated by a zone boundary with her property, this portion of the property being in the C3 zone, and this portion of the property being in the R7 zone. So the applicant is proposing a rezone to C3. This will place the entire property within a single zone boundary, which will facilitate its future redevelopment and/or reinvestment. Staff is recommending approval of this rezone. We do find that it is consistent with the Envision Enid Comprehensive Plan, which identifies Grand Avenue as a neighborhood corridor of mixed uses, connecting commercial nodes at Willow Grand and Chestnut Grand. That's staff's recommendation to approve this rezoning and recommend adoption by the Mayor and Board of Commissioners.
Let me ask just one quick question. Are you saying basically the west, what would that be, quarter of her property, or is it the entire lot?
This area that I've got my cursor over.
Understood.
Is in the R7 zone. This portion of her property is in the C3 zone. So literally the zone boundary cuts part of the building too as well, which is not what you want for zoning.
And I apologize, Alex. My eyes are not as great as they used to be. Do I see a little blue line? There's a building which I believe is a church.
Yeah, over on the left.
And then there's a blue line, there's a big green line. And
Yes,
then to the west, there's another blue line, right about there.
That's correct. So the blue line here is the perimeter of the entire site. It's a property line, basically. The green line, I'm sorry, is a utility, just to show the infrastructure. And then this light blue line is the zone boundary, with this portion of the site being in C3, this portion in R7.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor, aye? Aye. Those opposed? And that's unanimous. Okay, the next one is to hold a public hearing and consider approval of a request to rezone the property located at 908 West Elm from R4 Residential Multifamily District to C3 General Commercial District, and make a recommendation to the Mayor and Board of Commissioners. Alex, you again?
Yes, very briefly, this is a request that you had previously seen on January 23rd with affirmative recommendation to go to the Mayor and Board of Commissioners on the 7th. Unfortunately, there was staff error in the noticing, and we had to start over again, so nothing has changed. This will allow for the placement of a vacant, currently vacant property that's in the R4 zone, which is right here, a placement in the C3, which will then serve as a surface level parking lot for a proposed nail salon that has an address at 401 North Van Buren. The request is also consistent with the Enid Comprehensive General Plan as it designates Van Buren as an arterial corridor with future land uses designed to focus on development, infill development, really, to take advantage of the existing utility connections that are present. Staff does recommend approval of this rezoning and consideration and forwarding on to the mayor and the Board of Commissioners for adoption.
Thank you, Alex.
Make a motion to approve?
Second. I have a second down there. Motion is second to approve. All those in favor, aye? Aye. Those opposed? And that motion carries, and that brings us to item 6, adjourn. May I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor, aye? Aye. Those opposed? We are adjourned.
Thank you all. By your standards, this was a pretty long meeting, as I understand.
It is, but we've had much longer than that.
I'm sure.
So,
We just want to be productive.
It's okay. I'm used to long meetings, so.
How come we didn't do the count?